And I'm remembering that the pictograph for crisis in the Chinese pictograph is danger and opportunity. And that's exactly where we are right now.
Right. Thank you, Jean. Claudette, can you add something to that, please?
The only thing I would say is, for me, liminal meant like a turning point. And when I say a turning point, it is true that things will never be as before. But how come we take advantage of the situation of the moment? It is because it is also an opportunity for us to reflect, to try to evaluate what was good, what is we think has not been good for us, for our family, for the way of life. Then an opportunity to make things better. So this is what I want to see, about that time. How can we learn from it and try to do things in a better way?
So both of you are speaking about where we are right now in this choice point that we can take this moment to reflect and evaluate, as you, Claudette, if you said, and Jean, as you have said, that we can't go back to the past and the future is unknown. So I'd love for both of you to speak of your own experience of how it is for you in this moment and how you personally are thinking and holding it and looking toward the future. What is your hope for the future?
I hope that there'll be enough changes with people connecting with one another, especially with the idea of connecting in units that we call circles, whether it be a family circle or an organization formal circle or a friendship circle, to be able to meet together as equals where everybody's feelings matter. And the net result is what everyone brings into the center, and the center is a value that is held by everyone in it. And as I watch the Zoom circles happening, it seems to me that the phenomenon of the Mayan circle, the idea that at a certain point, a quiet change happens, as it did with feminism, that it just appeared to be women talking in consciousness raising groups. Only the grassroots evolution of women talking together truthfully and supporting one another to change their world resulted in a major change, evolutionary change in our culture. And so my hope at this liminal time, at this threshold in between what was and what will come, is that the circle model, including a global circle, that we are all humanity on this planet, and it matters that we look after the planet and each other. On the other hand, the danger, crisis and opportunity and danger is that power over, motivated by fear, could have a drastic bad effect. So we're in a tension, as we are in a liminal time, between evolution and back to the bad old days of power over politics.
Can I ask, Claudette, Jean has spoken that there is a precedent that we can look back to, like in the 1970s when the feminist movement came out and there was a natural drawing together in a circle of people's voices being equal in that time and all people have been heard. And Claudette, in your worldwide travels and all that you have participated in, Have you seen any tendency towards people being heard more fully rather than an authority speaking into people and into their lives?
Eh, yes and no. When I say yes and no, because in a way, in my field of adult education, but informal, uh, my way is always to get people together and try to have everybody exchange and communicate, you know. So in a way, I have been trained to do that, you see. But at the same time, I think that you are right, because what I experience myself now at the moment, heard from other people, uh, I know that some families now, it is a privileged time for them. For the first time, they don't have to worry to do things, to send the children to school, to have the children leave. They have time for themselves and they have time for the family. I know that I am privileged myself. I was supposed to fly back to Europe where I live, but I am now with my sister in Florida. And we are discovering, rediscovering the time to play together, things that we used to do things together, but to enjoy just the presence of the other. It was not as real, or it didn't come as often and as deep. But now we do it, and we are happy to do it and to be able to do it together. And of course, we listen to the news every day, and some people that we know, members of our family, other people have been deeply affected, and we know all the people who have died from coronavirus. So in a way, we are also more aware that we are lucky to be together, lucky to be in an atmosphere where we love each other, lucky to be able to have food every day. So we are lucky, we are aware of it, we are happy, and we are happy to find out about other people, members of our family, friends, and people that maybe we had not called or talked to for a long time. Then we try to outreach the people. This is my situation, you know, but I do know that a lot, and I can see that a lot of people are willing and are trying to go back to the past, to go back to the life that they know, when they used to go to school or they used to go to work every day. So this is the life that they know. So they are not totally comfortable with the actual situation, but mostly also because there is an unknown. Until when, we do not know, you see? So this is what I will stop now and coming back to other things later.
And I hear you say that some of us have the privilege to come into more close, a quiet time with our family, to pause and to be and appreciate one another. And I'm wondering about the idea that there is a greater awareness of the disparity of wealth and the disparity of those who are disadvantaged, who are required to live in sheltered places and not be able to work, and actually have a real concern about the roof over their head and food on the table. And it's a much harder process for them to shelter in place, and we're becoming aware of that. And I wonder if each of you could comment on that. Jean, do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I'm very much aware about how fortunate we are who are on this line right now, and probably everyone who's listening to this. And when I have ever felt fortunate, gratitude goes with that. And the question then is, when you feel gratitude, how do you say thank you? How do you say thank you for the privilege of being sheltered in place instead of locked down in poverty and fear? How do you do that? And I think that's one of the major questions about will this period of time make us feel closer to other people who are not as fortunate or more distant? And it depends on the heart, because it's only through the capacity to imagine being the other person and realizing that so much of our privilege is what came with coming into the life we came into, in one way or another anyway. And so how do we say thank you? And usually that has something to do with service. It has something to do with being able to give back. It has something to do with a heart connect, what I have always called heart connected activism. It isn't about a hierarchy that I'm more privileged and therefore I can give you something. It has to do with, at the same level, I could be you. And with that in mind, I think that it creates a sort of sense of service to others that is a heart experience. It's also perseverance. I mean, I often sign my newsletters love, hope, perseverance, trust, and gratitude. And I'm realizing that when you start out with something that is meaningful to you, you think it's going to be fun and easy. And I often have said that what is meaningful, fun, and motivated by love. It sounds like, oh, that's easy, I can do that. But it may take you decades to do that. It may be a commitment to, raising a baby to adulthood, to following a career path that seemed like a good idea to be a doctor, but then it took about 15 years later to arrive at the specialty that was a gift to me, to be in it. But it took perseverance getting there. So I've been thinking about those very qualities that have to do with living the life that we, or becoming the person we were meant to be. I think that's what we all have as a challenge, regardless of the level of society we're in and everything. Everyone comes in and has a challenge of, are you living the life that you came to live? And only you can answer the question, yes.
I'm going to step in here for a moment because I was asking myself, yes, I'm still here. Yes, I still have energy. What is it I can do? And it strikes me that one of the things I can do right now is cheerlead people. I can invite people on a Zoom call who can talk to us in a way that we're not talked to every day. We can hear stories we don't hear every day. I worked for a very large corporate bank, raising 5 children as a single mom for a long time. And I met someone who did something that I thought sounded interesting, but I would have to quit my job in order to do this thing. The universe had a new plan for me. They fired me. My job disappeared. I had to fire everyone that worked for me, and I was without a job. So I went to work for this other organization, and they said to me, we're going on a trip to Haiti. Would you like to come? And I said, well, I'd love to come, but what can I do? And they said, well, you don't have to do anything. You just have to come. So I went, and then I met Claudette. But I also met women that were not as privileged as I, women that died in childbirth, women that had no doctors to attend them. And I sat there and remembered that my last birthing experience I lost a child. Doctor took care of me. I hemorrhaged and almost died, and the doctor took care of me. But had I had that birth experience in Haiti, I would not be sitting here today. So that experience changed everything for me. It opened the doors to the United Nations. It opened the doors to some work that I tried to do in Haiti. We tried to bring, or we did bring, some midwife education to some small groups of women. But we couldn't do it in a large way because the structures of the political structures, the religious structures, the structures that exist in our world didn't make that easy. But as we sit here today, we're in a place where I think a lot of the structures that we've lived with for so long are shaky. Some are crumbling. Some people have new ideas about how they should be rebuilt or reorganized. And I think we're truly in a space where it's very difficult, and very difficult for many families, especially those who have lost people. But on the other side of that, it's also an enormous opportunity for some new imaginations to become active and different things to happen. And yes, it's easy to go back to same old, but maybe we don't have to do that. That's what I'm thinking.
I love that. Thank you so much, Rosemary, for sharing your story. And what I'm hearing with that, and what I've so often heard in the many interviews that we've conducted on New Dimensions, is the advice. And you saw this in Haiti when you first went to Haiti, and you felt like, well, what can I do? And the advice that we often hear on New Dimensions is, do what is close to you. That's the first step. We each have our area of influence. Some of us have a huge influence. Jean, you're one, you have a huge influence. Rosemary, you have a huge influence. Claudette, you have a huge worldwide influence. So, but that doesn't negate the influence each person has in their life. And as we look for things that are close to us, and as we go forward with that gratitude and saying thank you, and creating a deeper empathy for others. And that's, I feel, kind of the landscape we're in right now. Claudette, I'd love to hear any contribution you have to what we're speaking about right now, about the influence and about empathy.
I don't know if I am going to answer your question. When you say about empathy, I am going to connect it to something that Jane said a little while ago. And she said, how to be you, how to be the other person. In order to be the other person, you have to already know her situation. I'm talking intellectually. Sometimes we never, as Rosemary explained, she had never experienced the situation of Haitian women, but at one time she did understand because she could put herself in their place, you know. I am from Haiti, and as I started to tell you, in a way, I said I feel blessed because it could not have been better for me. I am in a place where I am safe. I am with people who love me, that I love. So in a way, for me, everything is very good. But of course, I keep being connected to members of my family all over the world, but mostly also with people in Haiti. And I remember that Jean, who is a psychologist, at one time talked to us about fear of some people. And I know that some people are trying to go back to the life that they know. But more closely, yesterday I got a call from someone who is like like my daughter, you know, a daughter in Haiti. And she was telling me about her fear because 10 years ago, she experienced, the earthquake in Haiti. She had to walk on cadavers, she told me, because she was trying to go back to her home. And then there were things all over, and she had to go, and that's what she said, walking over people. And now that the new pandemic is there, she's living, she's all by herself. And that's the fear has come back. She's afraid that maybe things will get so bad that again she will have to walk on other people who are dead, So when she said that, I started to understand a little bit why Jean, as a psychiatrist, as a psychologist, has talked about fear. It's not my experience, but we have to try to understand and to put ourselves in the place of those people who are going to the situation, but with fear, and some others with pain, because I have talked also to people who have lost close friends, members of their family, and the pain is there. It's life. It's, for them, it's not something intellectual. It's something, that is pouring out of them, So if that could help us have deeper humanity, maybe that is what, and be able, to outreach the other people, whatever situation that they are on, then I think that the pandemic will have helped us be stronger and be more caring. Those are what I hope will come out of this.
So what I hear you saying is that there are some people who are contracting in fear, that here we are, and we don't know the future. It's a threshold, this liminal time. It's a threshold time. As both of you have spoken, we have moved away from the past, but we don't yet know the future. And some people get very fearful about that because we're impatient with our not knowing, not being able to grab hold of, okay, this is how it's going to be. And yet we're in this opportunity to be able to expand into hope, in this opportunity that we can make a new choice. So my question is,
Can I?
oh, please, Jean, you want to?
Yeah, I want to speak to the trauma of this liminal time. And following Claudette and the example she gave of someone who remembered when she was traumatized before. This is happening to everyone who has been isolated and traumatized in the past. There is a return of the stress level of fear when you don't feel supported by your job, your friends, your family, and maybe you went through a very traumatic childhood or a time that was very traumatic, and then you went to school, and then you got educated, and you got a job, and you kind of forgot how bad it had been, and now we're in a time in which you could be by yourself, you could be out of a job, you could start remembering and having the dreams that come back at night, in which you are reconnecting with the trauma that went before. So I know that during this liminal time, there are a lot of people who are going through a mental health crisis as well as the kind of crisis we're talking about, where there is, the danger is regression into the past, depression, substance abuse, and giving up. I mean, that's the danger part. Opportunity is quite the opposite. But often for opportunity, you need a spiritual path, you need a psychological help, you need to be able to share your anxieties with other people who take it to heart. I think the AA model is a fine model for people who have been through trauma. And consciousness raising groups, and the model of the Million Circle with a spiritual center, to share and have accepted by others what it is you have gone through, and to have reflected back. Not only do you hear it, but you admire that you have made it this far, given what you went through. And when you start really working with people, you realize how everybody looks pretty good on the surface, but so much trauma has happened to people in their lives. And so I'm quite aware that this is not an easy time for people in lockdown, people who don't know what's coming next. If you can hold on to some optimism, which is the message that we are doing with this particular discussion of a liminal time when change is possible, when you can be optimistic about not knowing, suspend the past as being what the future is going to be. Consider that we're having a global opportunity to stop global warming, to move towards a sense of a unified humanity. They're big things, and there's a trauma that's happened to people. So in this liminal threshold time, it's all up what's going to happen next. But I was moved by the what Claudette mentioned about somebody remembering walking on cadavers. Because a lot of people are remembering some very bad experiences that they had when they felt helpless or lost. And they also need to remember the part of them that was strong and made it through.
So that, are you saying that it's beneficial for us to take time to remember when we have been strong, and to not just hold the trauma, but along with the trauma to remember those moments when we were courageous? And
Absolutely. Absolutely. And to hold the tension between the opposites of, yes, we remember when we felt helpless, but what about all those other things? You're right.
I think the brain kind of wants to always go, like it's that reptilian brain that goes back to fight and flight and all of that. It's easy to remember that, and it takes a little more effort to say, oh, to stop and pause and say, wow, wait a minute, I'm alive right now, and maybe dare I say, a better person for some of that. Can I say that, Jean? I don't know.
Yes, because you remember.
So remember is, I hear that word, is to remember again, to call back those parts of ourselves, to remember again all of those parts of ourselves, and not to be afraid of that. Is that what you're saying? Or
And to consider how amazing it is that we are still standing.
right.
And that we are in a position, some of us, to think, oh, we're not done yet. And this is a call to the feminists of the 70s who have that activism energy and who knows what it feels like to be in a circle of support, and who now are 70, 80 plus, and hey, you may be needed. The indigenous peoples of America had a council of wise women at the top of their structure, because priorities could be priorities and discussions about what is important. They had that perspective. That's another piece. There are all these pieces that define who we are.
Exactly, exactly. So, Claudette, in your experience of this, of appreciating our well, at least of looking at the trauma, our own personal trauma and our family trauma, and then the trauma of those we love in our community, even our nations, as the trauma of Haiti has had a tremendous, not only in politically, but also environmentally, with so many environmental crises in this beautiful island culture. I would love for you to share something about your love of that culture and where it is right now in this moment in time.
Yeah. You see, we have a deep culture in Haiti. At the same time, we are celebrating it, or part of it, our dancing, our joy, our music, etc. So, and our painting, our handicraft. So that part is very clear. There are other things also that keep us going. Is, for example, sharing, being together at very crucial moments, birth, and also when someone die, etc. You know, and I know that a lot of people sometimes cannot understand how could people be so poor, so deprived of everything, and at the same time with so much joy, because people laugh and seem to take things easily as if things did not exist. If that it is also a way to cope with it, you know, maybe a way to face. If you are hungry, yes, you are hungry, but if you cannot solve the situation, but you have to keep going, you have to keep working. But I think that we, four of us talking, who are privileged to be able to take the time to reflect and to share our experience, to share our thought, we can also this time try to put ourselves in the shoes or in the feet of other people. I know that I have heard and I understand that a lot of people in Haiti, the poor people didn't even want to believe in the coronavirus because some of them thought that it is the government that came up with that idea just to try to make money or to make to get help, international help. But you see, there have been so many times they have used the poverty of the people to get funds. So a lot of people didn't believe, but now they are starting to realize that this is true. But at the same time, we ourselves realize that a lot of people, even when they are aware of the situation, even when they are told to have the distanciation, they just cannot make it because every day they have to go out, every day they have to try to find food, every day they have to try to sell the little things that they have in order to be able to feed their family, you know? So I think the pandemic, the coronavirus pandemic, give us also the opportunity to see all the wrongs in our society. A lot of things have to be hopefully done and dealt with in a different way. I don't know, I am just saying a wish, I don't know if that will happen, but a lot of people, including here in the United States and in all the big cities of the world, for the first time, they have to make queue to get food, you know, something that they had never experienced before. Could that be an opportunity for us to do things differently so at least more people would have food on the table or food in their plate. I don't know, but I think it is an opportunity, it is a time for us to think about doing things differently. And that means also to do things culturally differently. You talk about culture. When I am 73 now, and I do remember that in Haiti, we used the way we would go to the market. It was always with the same basket, a basket that we would go and we would take back home and we would use over and over until we cannot use it any longer. And it is something that could be used, by destroy itself, because it was nature, it was things made with nature. And then we came using plastic. So I apologize for saying it, but I think it is an opportunity to say it. For example, in the West and in the healthy country, you have done a lot of things that are extraordinary, that are good, but also we have relied so much on the Western culture that has imposed truth, or has imposed as truth things that were not good for nature. So in a way, I think that all of us have to be humble enough to learn what is good from the other. And what is good, it is what is sustainable, what is good for our health. So in our culture, I want to go back and be proud, to do things that we used to do before that were good for our health, but that we were not aware enough to share and to bring to people as values. I don't know if you understand me, because
oh no, I understand. I understand. I think we're all understanding what you're saying about going back to those values. And I'm noticing that you said that in Haiti, that even though it was difficult in so many ways, it did not stop people from dancing and being joyful.
Absolutely not.
And I love, as we come closer to the end of our time together, what I'm seeing on the internet and through YouTube and many other ways, we're seeing an incredible creativity and joyfulness of people in this moment where we're appreciating these invisible people, that the people who have stocked the shelves in the grocery store, the people who collect our garbage, or the people who are the nurses and the healthcare workers, and all of these people that have been so supportive, but rather invisible. And I would love, Jean uses that term, we're in a dandelion moment. And I would love for you to tell us what you mean, Jean, by dandelion moment, and maybe Claudette can speak to that too.
Well, Rosemary invited us to be with an unknown audience out there. And we didn't plan to talk about anything in particular. We have the overall subject, and ideas and memories come up and we speak them. And this program then becomes like blowing a dandelion out and watching the winds carry it far away, only now this is the internet wind that is carrying ideas and thoughts and feelings and anecdotes out from this program, out who knows where. And it will land somewhere in fertile soil. And a person just needs a seed idea that they're ready to hear and let it grow in their psyche. And so my hope and belief is that when the saying of synchronicity is when the pupil is ready, the teacher will come. And the teacher could be a dog, the teacher could be a PhD, an MD, it could be a housewife, it could be a kid that just says something right at that right moment. And that's the teacher that put it into words, something that the person was waiting to hear, to take. And if each of us came into this world with a story, with a life to live out that's meaningful to us, then we have to do from inside out, the story that we live out, and not what other people told us who we should be or what we should do. And in a liminal time, in some way, for some people, all bets are off. All the kinds of expectations everybody was supposed to do, somehow it didn't quite happen that way. The graduations aren't happening. People aren't finishing their school things. The job that they were going to go up the ladder to success, suddenly it's a halt. So what about this time, personally, to each individual? Will you take this time to consider that it is a very special time? What are the seeds in you that might grow into giving you some sense of what it is that is meaningful to you to do? And one of you mentioned the creative energy that's going on now. That's part of it. So many people have amazing creative abilities, and they were told, well, you can't make money doing that. And so they stifle what is their inherent gift. So this is a time of threshold, becoming, liminal. It's like, who knows what is happening in this in-between place? I hope for the good that could be happening.
You know, what's interesting to me is that the economy has stopped. We hear that every day. However, there's a new economy that has taken over. Many people call it the gift economy. This is a gift today. Zoom is almost free.
Mm-hmm.
No one is being paid to be part of this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
No one had to pay to listen to the conversation, and it will be recorded without cost, and it will be disseminated without cost. So when we think of the economy being completely disrupted, but so much happening that is not monetized. Economics is my background, so when I think about that, I'm just astounded that there is so much, I call it currency of the heart, going on. It's just everywhere. So
I love it, what you're saying.
Throw
It's
that
like,
out as a thought. That has already begun. People are delivering dinners. People are delivering groceries. Children, young people, 6, 7, 8 years old are making masks and giving them away. There's just all kinds of things that are happening that come out of the heart. You're talking about acting from your heart. All of these things. Obviously, Zoom is a very nice, large company that's doing very well, not only business-wise, but still, this technology is very inexpensive and free. They also offer free accounts. Just think of what's happening without money. Claudette, I see you nodding your head. You must
No, you are totally right, because while you said that, I thought of some ballet, the opera. There are a lot of things that they offer now, so which is culturally extraordinary. So I hope most people can take advantage of that situation. But if there is something that I would like to add, I really love that the idea that it's like a dandelion moment. We are things are going, we do not know who will catch them or what it's going to do. But it is good, and let's connect better to each other. I would add to that, let's connect also better to nature. For the first, not for the first time, but now I have the privilege and the time to take time to listen more to the birds. Friends of mine and ourselves, we can see the butterflies and the flowers and the fruits, things that we didn't have time to connect to. It's not only to see, but to try to connect to. So hopefully that time that we spend to see, to appreciate, to try to connect to nature will hopefully make us have a more respect, deep respect for nature in the future. So that is my hope.
Beautifully, beautifully said. And I'm reminded too of how we notice all of these things now that we're quiet enough. We've been so busy in our lives, and we haven't taken it. It's just built up such a speed that all of this is whizzing by us, and we don't take that time to stop and hear the birds in our own backyards or out our own window, or notice that tree that may be starting to leaf out or bloom right now. So now there's a time to pause. And how do we continue to nurture that in our lives as things then shift into the new way of being? How can we hold that and bring that forward into the new time? Any comments on that?
Well, the coronavirus has cleaned the planet of the pollution that got in the way of seeing people in the cities seeing the stars at night, or people in India seeing the Himalayas for the first time now, because the sky is clean. So this is a very different time. People have more time to decide what they're going to focus on. I mean, this is one of the interesting things about this time. You can sit in the present moment and truly appreciate what is, or you can look back and mourn what was, or you can be anxious about what might come. And so the practice, which people are doing more, they're doing more meditation, they're doing more walking in parks, and because of maintaining distance from chattering, they're actually looking at the trees. And so there's something going on in this liminal place to be learned. We won't know until we pass through it whether we've really learned some good things or not.
No, but at least if we recognize that they are good, it's up to us now to see how we can take that with us in the future if we are there.
Yeah.
So that becomes an interesting question. What is it that we have right now that we want to hold on to? What is it that each one of us is enjoying or noticing that we will take into the future?
That's a wonderful question, Rosemary. And I would suggest that we all really look at that and not only think about it in our heads and hold that in our brains, but actually write it out or do some journaling about that, or do a collage, do some artwork, cut out things from magazines or something and make a collage and or do a painting or dance it, using all the arts to hold to anchor that into our hearts and into our lives, so that we have this moment of 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 bringing in that which we pause to remember and to value in our lives, and so we can hold it and bring it into the future. Any other comments on that?
I would add to write down the dreams that you have and your associations to it. Someone shows up in a dream that you haven't thought about for decades. What does that person represent? What are you doing in the dream that feels so right? What are the difficulties you're encountering? And can you speak the language of symbols by feeling about them? And because dreams are like artworks that require some interpretation often. Although I'm amazed by some people who maybe the dream life is a little puzzling, so they get a voiceover in the dream to say what to pay attention to. I think the psyche is in this liminal time that we aren't so busy. We're expanding. And so there's more that we can take in. And it's just very, very interesting what is going on in the psyches of people that is moving them to what really matters, meaning that only you can know from inside what is meaningful to you. And one of the things about what's meaningful to you is when you lose track of time doing it, whatever it is. And if you value that, there's a much better chance that you can be happy inside, which is a good thing to do in the middle of not being able to do what you usually do to keep busy.
Beautifully said. Rosemary, I want to thank you so much for joining us all together and calling this moment of us, the four of us together, and the 100 of other people that have joined us and that are in the invisible realm, but that we all feel in our heart. We feel the support of those who have joined us. So Rosemary, I'd love for you to say anything about how you thought of this and how you see this in the future, that we might continue this conversation.
Well, I think part of it is born out of a desire to know and understand what other people are thinking and feeling in this very unusual time. Some of it also comes from being lonely, and I want to see you, my friends. I miss you, and I want to talk to you, and I want you to meet all the people I know and them to meet you. So there's a lot of selfishness in doing this.
It's not selfish because we have so many people.
That's right.
But I just think of all the wonderful times when I was in Haiti. You know, the women in Haiti, when they come together, they sing. They gather, they sit together, they maybe form a circle, but they always sing. That's the one thing we don't quite do. We may ring a bell and we may do a little drumming sometimes, and we hold hands and we sit quietly, but we don't gather and sing. I would love to see that begin to happen, because there's something about the tones of music and your own tones when they come out that is it's healing, it's happiness making. Anyway, there's so much going on in the world, and I do think that we could do this again, Justine, Jean, Claudette. I suspect we have a lot more to say than what we've had to say in just this 1 hour. So there may be an opportunity to do some other conversations amongst ourselves and with other people. Maybe this is something that can continue.
Absolutely. We'll see if the people who did participate or who listen to us, they will probably some might get in touch with you, Rosemary. Maybe they might want to join us. We'll see.
Well, that would be interesting. Maybe so this is my first experience with a Zoom webinar.
Okay.
There may
Anyway,
well
for me,
be another format. We can have a conversation with all the people who attend as well.
I just want to add, our dear friend Terry Tempest Williams, whom some of us know, has said her thanks, and she said the dandelion is now in the breeze, and the seeds will fall on fertile ground.
Oh, bless Terry.
Yeah.
Would anyone like to make a concluding comment?
I would like to sound this singing bowl so that everyone who is listening is also connected with us at the heart level. Would that be fine?
Oh, that would be wonderful. And I want to say the singing bowl has been with us. Jean brings it to so many circles. It has been around the world. It's been, or her bell has at least.
The bell has.
This isn't the bell, but it's similar. And we're so grateful. Thank you, Jean. I'd love that for myself.
I just want to say, that's lovely. With our hearts joined and our experience of this hour, I thank you all for your presence in my life, for your words, for joining this call. And to everyone who has come on in the outside ether, and you're part of this, thank you too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to you.
Thank you.
That's a great idea.
Good. To all of you. I will hit the button and end the meeting.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, ciao.
Thank you so much.